There's something magical about waking up on race day, checking the forecast and seeing rain at Spa-Francorchamps. As a Formula One fan, your mind immediately starts to picture chaos. Last-second overtakes, dramatic pit calls, safety cars, maybe even a shock winner. But last weekend, what we got was the total opposite. The anticipation built for a classic Belgian Grand Prix, but the FIA's decisions completely flattened it. Heavy rain had already canceled the F3 race and caused a 90-minute delay to the F1 start. But once the green light finally came, it was 2 formation laps behind the safety car, and then a procession. We were all waiting for the kind of unpredictable race that wet weather at Spa usually delivers. Instead, we got a race so calculated and dry, you could almost predict every move. Oscar Piastri, to his credit, did exactly what he needed to. After the safety car pulled in, he made a bold move past Lando Norris on the first real lap, claiming his 6th win of the season. The Australian absolutely dominated from that moment on. Still, even with that drama early on, you could feel it. This wasn't the wet race we were promised, and that's where the frustration really began. For the teams, the drivers, and for you, the fans. Wet races are supposed to be part of the DNA of Formula One. The Belgian GP is famous for it. But this time, the FIA played it overly safe, waiting for dry enough conditions before giving the all clear. The risk? It vanished. The spectacle? Missed. And the mood? Pretty much ruined. So I've got to ask you, do you think the FIA made the right call in waiting it out? Or should they have trusted the drivers to handle the conditions, as they've done for decades at Spa? Let me know in the comments, and vote right here. Should the FIA allow wet races if drivers are ready? Yes or no? Also, if you're enjoying this breakdown, subscribe to our channel and enable the notification bell. Your subscription is very important to us. Help us grow and reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers so we can keep bringing you real F1 coverage, race after race. Now, imagine you're Max Verstappen. You've prepared your car for a wet race at one of the most unpredictable circuits in the world, Spa. Your team's done their homework, banking on the rain to give you an edge with a high downforce setup. But then, because the FIA decided to delay the race until conditions were basically dry, all that preparation turns against you. That's exactly what happened. Verstappen didn't hide his frustration. He openly called out the FIA for going too far in the other direction after being a bit more cautious following Silverstone. But as he put it, this time, it was the other extreme. The Dutchman expected a wet weather battle. Instead, by the time the race really got going, the track was drying fast, and everyone switched over to mediums. For Max, who had a setup tailored for full wet conditions, it was a disaster. He described his race as quite difficult, especially on the intermediates. He and Red Bull made a bold, strategic call, trusting the forecast and preparing for heavy rain. But when the FIA delayed the start until conditions were borderline slick, that wet setup turned into a massive disadvantage. He didn't have the straight-line speed. He didn't have the grip advantage anymore. And with Red Bull already fighting balance issues on dry setups this season, it only made things worse. Max even said he would have started the race right on time, at 3 p.m. According to him, it was not even raining at that point. Sure, there were wet patches, especially between turns 1 and 5, but with a couple of laps behind the safety car, the track could have been race-ready. Instead, the FIA waited, and in Max's view, ruined the strategic element completely. So here's a question for you. Do you think Verstappen is right? Should the FIA have let them race in the wet? Drop your opinion in the comments. And hey, if you're finding value in this kind of insight, hit that like button and subscribe. We're building a community here at Fast News F1, and your support helps us grow and reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. If there's one driver who experienced both sides of the chaos and disappointment at Spa, it was Lewis Hamilton. What started as one of the worst weekends of his season nearly turned into a major opportunity, until, once again, The FIA's cautious approach pulled the rug from under him. Let's start with qualifying. Hamilton failed to get out of Q1, not once, but twice. That put him at the back of the grid for both the sprint and the main race. Saturday's sprint was forgettable. He finished 15th with little progress. But Sunday, things got a lot more interesting. Because of his poor qualifying, Hamilton and Ferrari made a strategic decision: start from the pit lane, take on new engine components, and, crucially, change the car's setup. With no parc fermé limitations from the pit lane, Ferrari increased rear wing levels, boosting downforce. That gave Hamilton a clear grip advantage in the wet conditions at the start, which he used brilliantly. As others on low downforce setups tiptoed around the damp circuit, Hamilton charged through the field. By the time everyone had switched to slick tires around lap 15, Lewis had already clawed his way from P18 to P7. It was vintage Hamilton, calculated, aggressive, and adapting faster than anyone else. But just like Verstappen, Hamilton's setup only worked in the wet. Once the track dried and the others began to benefit from their low-drag configurations, his forward momentum stalled. Even with DRS, he lacked the top speed to make a pass stick. If the race had stayed wet, Hamilton could have been in serious contention for the win. And imagine that, a first-ever victory with Ferrari in the rain at Spa. It didn't happen, and it begs the question: are overly cautious decisions from the FIA robbing fans and drivers of these potentially legendary moments? Let's talk about it. How far do you think Hamilton could have gone if the wet conditions had continued? Let me know in the comments. And if you love these kinds of deep dives and strategy breakdowns, go ahead and subscribe to Fast News F1. We're on a mission to reach 1,000 subscribers, and you being part of it really means a lot. Now let's zoom out for a second. What happened at Spa wasn't just a one-off. It's part of a growing pattern in Formula One that has a lot of fans, maybe including you, asking a tough question. Is wet weather racing in F1 dying? It's not just about this race. It's about the entire philosophy behind how the FIA handles rain. Drivers are ready. The cars can handle it. But time and time again, races are delayed, shortened, or neutralized to avoid running in the wet. The excitement that used to define F1's most iconic wet races, it's being traded for extreme caution, and it's changing the DNA of the sport. So what's the issue? It's not the tires. It's not even really the track conditions. The core problem is visibility. When today's F1 cars race in heavy rain, the ground effect aerodynamics create an insane amount of spray. Water gets blasted through the diffuser, shooting up into massive rooster tails. The drivers can't see anything in front of them, not even the blinking red light on the car ahead. The FIA has tried to fix this. They've tested spray guards over the tires, hoping to reduce the wall of mist kicked up by the wheels. But here's the catch. Most of the water isn't coming off the tires. It's coming from under the car, funneled by the aerodynamics, so the guards make almost no difference. There is hope that the 2026 regulations, which aim to reduce downforce and change the ground effect setup, might help ease the problem. But let's be real. It's unlikely we'll see meaningful improvement for at least 3 or 4 more seasons. Until then, expect more races like Spa, hyped up by the weather forecast, only to be neutered by delays and safety-first decisions. So what do you think? Should F1 invest more into solving the spray issue? Or is it time to accept that classic wet weather racing might be a thing of the past? Tell me in the comments. I want to know where you stand. And if you haven't already, hit that like button and subscribe to Fast News F1. We break down these deeper issues in the sport all season long, and your support helps us reach our goal of 1,000 subscribers. Let's be honest. When F1 plays it safe in the rain, it's not just the teams or drivers who lose out. It's you, the fans, the ones waking up early, tuning in with high hopes, waiting for the chaos, the unpredictability, and the magic that only a wet race can deliver. Races like Spa in 1998 are the reason so many people fell in love with this sport. That crash-filled, drama-heavy Grand Prix is still talked about over 2 decades later. It was wild, it was risky, it was unforgettable, and it was exactly the kind of race Spa is known for. But in 2025, we're left wondering if we'll ever see something like that again. After Spa this year, the frustration wasn't just coming from the drivers. The global media jumped in too. Outlets like Marca criticized F1's fear of rain, saying the sport now treats it like it's fire. ESPN pointed out how fans were robbed of what could have been a classic. And honestly, it's hard to argue with them. What we saw instead was a race that felt more like damage control than motorsport. The FIA waited, delayed, and eventually allowed a race to start, but only under conditions that felt sanitized and controlled. No chaos, no edge-of-your-seat drama, just another Sunday drive that happened to take place at one of the most legendary tracks on the calendar. And that's the real tragedy. When the governing body becomes too cautious, it doesn't just affect lap times or tire choices. It strips away the very soul of Formula One. So tell me, what's your all-time favorite wet race in F1 history? Was it Canada 2011, Brazil 2008, maybe even Germany 2000? Drop your pick in the comments. I want to know which race made you fall in love with the madness. And if you've made it this far, you're clearly a real fan. Subscribe to Fast News F1 and help us hit our goal of 1,000 subscribers. We'll keep bringing you the stories that actually matter, without the filter.